Max Verstappen's highly anticipated return to the Nürburgring did not disappoint, as he and his teammates went wheel to wheel for victory. Now, with 127 points, 71 victories, and 4 World Drivers' Championships, Max has achieved nearly everything there is to accomplish in Formula One and has now set his sights on expanding his reign into the world of sports car racing. The first major target in his sights is the 2026 Nürburgring 24 Hours, and this 4-hour NLS 2 race will be a major milestone along this journey. So join me as we ride shotgun with 2 sports car aces and an F1 superstar while they show us why they are not only contenders but frontrunners in the lead up to one of the world's most prized and most grueling endurance races. With the race set to begin shortly, we will join Mercedes factory driver and 2025 Aston Martin F1 sim driver Dani Juncadella on his slow parade to the grid. But by this point, the tone of the weekend has already been set by Max, who put in an early flyer in qualifying to claim pole position for the number 3. So, as the sea of fans eager to grab a glimpse and a shot of this Red Bull Mercedes parts out front of Juncadella, he finally arrives at the front of the grid. But with Juncadella getting out, we can see he actually shows Max a few ins and outs of how the systems work on this Mercedes AMG GT3. Which just goes to show how much of a newcomer Max really is to this form of racing. But of course, despite his lack of experience, he is laser focused on dominating this 4-hour race as he gets behind the wheel and leads the field from behind the pace car. With the race set to begin, the 2024 Nürburgring 24-hour winning Scherer Audi of Hasa lines up alongside the number 3 with the number 99 Rover BMW and 34 Valkenhorst Aston Martin just behind. Further back, we can jump aboard the number 44 Falcon Tire Porsche and see that this pack of GT3s, which is tucked up behind Max, is absolutely itching to get this race underway. So as the pace car pulls to the right-hand side and enters the pit lane, Max now has control of the field. The red lights are illuminated on the gantry as Max is mere moments away from taking another crucial step on his sports car racing journey. He moves to the right to guard the inside line into the tight turn 1 hairpin. We lose his onboard camera, but we jump back aboard the 44 car, and it is such a long hold. They make their way under the gantry and still have not gone yet. Finally, the green flag flies, and we can hear the flat 6 aboard this Porsche explode to life as Max leads the field into the tight turn 1 hairpin. He hugs the inside line as he slams the brakes and has built a slight gap over that number 16 Audi that he started alongside. He hustles the car back to the right-hand side to set up this left-hander as they make their way through the Mercedes arena, which is actually not run in the Nürburgring 24 hours. We lose his onboard camera, but jump back aboard the 44 to see the absolute melee that is ensuing in the mid-pack as Max extends his gap out front. The 44 nearly hits that 99 Rover BMW as they go side by side through the exit using every inch of road as they kick up dirt on the exit. Out front though, Max has a clean track in front of him and is trying to build a slight gap over that number 16 Audi. He uses every inch of road on the entry, clips the apex curb just beautifully, touching that exit curb as well. And I'm sorry, but once again, we lose his onboard camera. I know this is frustrating, but I promise that will be the last time we cut away from number 3's onboard. Just some connection issues as that Aston Martin makes contact with the BMW on the exit. We see the Porsche behind, making it 3 wide through the fast right-hander as the 44 backs out of it. But back out front, Max continues to try to build a gap on Hasa and his 16 Audi as he makes the left turn that leads onto the Nordschleife. Now, if you're not as familiar with this race, there's really 2 circuits that are combined that create the 24-hour and the NLS layouts. That's the Grand Prix circuit where the Formula 1 cars would race, and the Nordschleife, which is the original circuit where all of the Torch laps take place. And as you can see, the Nordschleife is very narrow compared to the Grand Prix circuit, which makes it very challenging to overtake on 99% of this track. So, although a lap around this portion of the circuit may take about 6 minutes for them to complete, they only really have 1 chance to pass, which comes at the end of the lap on the Donninger Höhe. So it's really important for Max to push as hard as he can through this section of the circuit to try to build a gap so the Audi cannot overtake when they make their way into that long straight. But as the lap continues, we can see that Audi has stayed close to the back of this number 3 Mercedes. And as they exit the Kleines Carousel, we see Galgenkopf ahead, which leads onto that ultra-long straightaway. Max carries as much speed as he dares in his Mercedes, but that Audi is so good through the high-speed corners. We get a little camera breakup, but if we look out back, we can see that Hasse, the 2-time Nürburgring 24-hour winner, is closing in on Max and showing him that he still has a few lessons to learn in sports car racing. They go side by side down the long straight. Max hustles over to the right-hand side to try to catch a draft off the back of the Audi, but Hasse has huge overspeed in his Audi and just begins to pull away on the long straightaway. Max continues behind the Audi and slowly begins to close in once again. He looks up the inside, but there's absolutely nowhere to go as the Audi leads into the final corner on this circuit. Max clips the apex curb and squeezes on the throttle as they make their way onto the Grand Prix circuit. Max may have claimed his first pole position for 2026, but it's Hasse in the Audi that leads at the end of the first lap. And as they hustle into turn 1, Max is not close enough to go for a move into the tight hairpin, as we can see them running completely different lines through this tight section of the circuit. Hasse using so much more of the road on the exit and on the entry for the left-hander as Max struggles with his Mercedes. Hasse using every inch of road, and so does Max through that corner as the Audi takes a huge amount of apex curb, with Max going for a later apex at the end, and Hasse once again maximizing every single inch of road, absolutely abusing the track limits on that exit. And this is why I love sports car racing. 2 cars with completely different characteristics being driven completely differently, but competing with one another. We can see that Audi is so nimble and able to use every inch of the road, whereas the Mercedes seems to require a much more stable driving style. And through the right-hander, Hasse builds a slight gap on Verstappen, who will have to stick behind this Audi through the Nordschleife. But the first few laps are always a bit of a prologue, with the real racing beginning once they catch the first traffic. And through this quick right-hander, Hasse is caught behind a BMW, which compromises his run onto the straight that leads into Bergwerk. Now, this is the section of the course where Lauda had that massive crash 50 years ago. And through the fast left-hander, the Audi has to use every inch of road to make its way past that slow BMW as they go through Bergwerk. Max Verstappen is tucked into the draft of the Audi, which clips the exit curb as Hasse tries to maximize every entry and exit in his Audi R8. It can be so tempting to go for an overtake through this winding straight, but it is nearly impossible because of how narrow the course is in this section. So as Max closes in, we get a little bit of camera breakup, but he is tucked up behind that Audi. He looks to the right-hand side, then to the left, but we can see him slam on the brakes as they catch a safety vehicle, and we can see debris is strewn across the road after that hatchback had a massive crash. And as they clear the accident, Hasse has built a massive gap to Max, who was just a moment ago tucked up underneath his bumper. This just goes to show how crucial it is to learn all of the nuances about racing at the Nürburgring. Now, it is obvious as Hasse clips the apex curb, making his way past that BMW, that Max is super fast in this Mercedes. But obviously, winning at the 24-hour race is going to take a lot more than speed. It is going to take racecraft and, critically, learning lessons like this about how to maximize every aspect of the race. And that's why it's so important that Max take part in races like this to learn all that he can from these other amazing, amazing sports car drivers. Verstappen continues to tail this Audi driver through the fast right-hander as they thunder into the tight and slow right-hander that leads into the carousel. Hasse moves around the outside of the slower traffic, but is caught up behind that red BMW as they make their way through this traffic into the carousel. They are all caught behind another slower touring car as Verstappen tries to make his way past this Audi driver. He tucks up underneath the rear wing as they make their way through this fast right-hander. He looks to the left and to the right, but it is so challenging to overtake through what is my favorite section of the course. It is so high commitment for the next 2 to 3 minutes as you make your way over this crest through this long right-hander. You don't want to clip the apex or the exit curb as you make your way back to the left-hand side side of the road through this fast right-hander, and then just tap the brakes through this double apex left-hander. You want to absolutely hammer that apex curb through the right-hander, and then over this crest. You can use the curbs on the exit if you want, but you have to be brave to do that through the double apex left-hander, and you don't want to clip that apex curb once again. You can just kiss this apex on the right and use the curbing on the left-hand side to maximize your apex speed and entry for this fast right-hander over the crest. We can see Haase using all of that curbing on the exit as well through ice curb. You want to once again clobber this curb on the apex, and Haase and Verstappen both catching a bit of dirt as well. Now you come through this easy flat-out left-right sequence, and then through the jump, Max getting a little bit of oversteer to that right-hander as they come through what is the highest commitment corner on the track, in my opinion. You have to keep the throttle pinned as the nose lifts off the ground. 2 wheels in the air once again for Verstappen as he stays close behind this Audi driver. Now, Max has not been super impressed with the 2026 regulations as they make their way through this left-hander, really tricky off-camber. You want to just kiss that exit curb and then make your way through the small Kleines carousel. You jump over the exit of that banking as you continue into the ultra-fast right-hander Galgenkolb, which leads onto the most critical straight on the circuit. And we can see Haase is up behind some traffic. He is able to clear it, though, and maintain his gap to Verstappen as this epic battle between the two continues. Now, as I was saying, Max Verstappen might not be too content with the current state of the Formula 1 regulations, but I truly hope that he is loving this racing, because I know I and you are loving watching him push a GT car to its absolute limits, especially against drivers like Haase as they fly past another safety vehicle in the flatbed. To me, there is absolutely nothing better than seeing drivers from different disciplines take each other on in races like the Nürburgring 24 Hours. So let's just hope this continues for Max as they make their way back onto the Grand Prix circuit. We still have this incredible racing unfolding out in front of us as Max tucks into the draft of that Audi with its screaming V10 engine, which thanks to Scherer has refused to die in GT3 racing, is able to hold off Max as he slowly closes in and looks around the outside into the hairpin. But Haase once again breaks incredibly late in his Audi as he runs wide through the apex. Max has a tighter line, but Haase once again holds the inside through this left-hander. Max is not able to find his way past. He loses every inch of road on the exit. No track limits to worry about here as the Audi holds a tight apex through that left-hander and sets up to carry a ton of apex speed through this right-hander as he once again uses every inch of road on the exit in his Audi as he defends P1 from the number 3. They make their way through this little cut-through, which once again they do not run in the Nürburgring 24 Hours, but they do run in NLS 2, and then back onto the circuit that they share with Nürburgring 24 Hours as they make their way past more BMW traffic through this right-hander as they extract every ounce of performance from their GT3 machinery. Through the right-hander, they are so evenly matched as Haase catches that touring car traffic and makes his way past, with Verstappen still shadowing his every move. Through the chicane, you can see the Audi maybe slightly slower as Max abuses the curb on the entry as well. These cars are so robust nowadays, they can absolutely throw them over the curbs with no concern through Sabine Schmidt's curve, which is so tricky. The car just wants to understeer off the road through that off-camber corner, and then you hammer down the hill into this right-hander that can just about be taken flat out, but Haase is caught behind a Porsche Cayman and has to hit the brakes as Verstappen has a huge run. He looks to the left-hand side, but there's just nowhere to go as Haase slams the door on the 4-time Formula 1 champion. Max hitting the apexes just perfectly, though, as he clips that apex curb and uses the curbing on the exit as well. It's so critical, as I mentioned, that you know every single curb to use around this circuit. But on the exit, once again, Haase is just able to extend the gap as they make their way into Flugplatz, the section of the course where that Nissan GTR had that massive airborne accident. And it's nearly flat for both the Audi and the Mercedes to that double apex right-hander. And with now 55 minutes of the race complete, Haase continues to hold off this Formula 1 champion in his aging Audi R8. But with nearly an hour left, as Verstappen makes his way around the outside of that Cayman through that ultra-challenging corner, with nearly an hour complete, they will be pitting at the end of this lap. And into this fast right-hander, Hasse is caught behind that BMW, and Verstappen closes in dramatically on the Audi driver. They clip that curb on the exit and then send it through this carousel, hopping on the exit as they close in on yet more traffic through Galgenkopf. The Audi driver tries to time his run to get a good exit onto this long straight, but has to hit the brakes as that Porsche just creeped over through the apex. Hasse's run is compromised, and Verstappen has a huge run down this long straight. Verstappen makes it 3 wide as they pass another BMW. He gets the side draft off the Audi, then pulls to the left-hand side to try to dump his dirty air onto the nose of that number 16 car. But Hasse is not giving up. They go side by side down the Donningehöhe as Hasse gets a nose ahead in his Audi, but Verstappen fights back. This is exactly what we wanted to see when Verstappen announced his return to the Nürburgring, as Hasse gets a nose ahead once again, but Verstappen has the inside line to the left-hander, and Hasse thinks better of it, backs out of it as they slam on the brakes through Tiergarten. Verstappen just has 2 corners left of his opening stint as he now pulls to the right-hand side. He keeps the throttle pinned and then slams on the brake as he hits the pit lane speed limiter. Once again, so important to maximize every single aspect of this race. So, as Max Verstappen trundles through the pit lane, he once again leads at the Nürburgring. And as he hits his marks, Max Verstappen undoes his belts and takes down the window net. Now, if this looks like a bit of a leisurely driver change, that's because it actually is. Compared to IMSA or the Le Mans 24 Hours, the pit stops take much, much longer, so drivers have a lot more time and don't really need to rush when they're getting either in or out of the car. But with Max hopping out, he helps Dani Juncadella get strapped in to this Mercedes AMG GT3. With the stop complete, the pit board is lifted and Dani slams on the throttle as he rejoins the race. But just ahead is that 16 Audi, which pulls out in front of this number 3 Mercedes, which is once again relegated back to 2nd position. The Audi, with a slightly faster pit stop, accelerates ahead of this number 3 car of Dani Juncadella. But there was also a driver change aboard that number 16 car, and Hasse has handed over to a less experienced driver who uses every inch of road on the exit. But Dani is closing in, and it feels like just a matter of time before this sports car superstar makes his way past that number 16 car. The Audi drifts a little wide through that left-hander. We can see a totally different line from Hasse as he uses every inch of road, though, on the exit. Dani has so much experience in this Mercedes around the Nürburgring and has actually finished on the podium in the 24-hour race with Jules Gounon as his teammate. So as he continues behind the Audi, we can get an understanding of how a true veteran navigates this Nürburgring course in this Mercedes AMG. Through the right-hander, Dani is so smooth and precise with the inputs on both the steering and on the throttle. It seems that, unlike the Audi and Porsche GT3s, which reward a more aggressive, abrasive driving style, this Mercedes prefers a gentler and smoother touch for extracting performance. And through the fast chicane, Dani is once again deliberate as he closes in on the 16 Audi of Nico Handke. They make the left turn onto the Nordschleife, and the Audi driver is just a little bit wide of the apex and leaves a little margin on the exit as well as Dani runs all the way up to that wall. We can clearly see the difference in experience level as Dani methodically marches closer to that number 16 car, which encounters a safety vehicle through that fast right-hander, just reminding us you never know what lurks around the next corner. And through the Hotzenbox section, the R8 driver is trapped behind that Audi touring car as he finally makes his way past, but Dani is all over the rear of this number 16 as they clip that apex curb on the right-hand side. Into the fast right-left sequence that leads onto the long straight, the Audi driver clips the first apex curb that sends him wide through the second apex and then off the road through the exit, dropping 2 wheels. Dani has a massive run as they come over the crest, which leads into Flugplatz. He pokes his nose up the inside, has leverage into the fast right-hander, and the Audi driver does not fight back, allowing Dani to take first place. It is number 3 Verstappen Racing Mercedes. A textbook display of overtaking from Dani Juncadella. I told you there's only really one overtaking place on the Nordschleife, but Dani just proved me wrong with that incredible move up the inside through Flugplatz. And as this race continues, Jules Gounon is now aboard the number 3, which continues to lead out front. But through the exit of Galgenkopf, he encounters traffic, and if we look in the rearview mirror, there is the 99 Rova Racing BMW, which is closing in on this number 3 Mercedes. And if you remember from last year's Nürburgring 24 Hours, this BMW is an absolute beast in a straight line. But for some unknown reason, Harper decides not to take the draft off the Mercedes, which surely must be hurting his top speed down this long straight. Maybe this BMW crew doesn't want to quite show their full hand yet for the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Either way, draft or not, Harper is now alongside and past the number 3 Mercedes as they make their way through Tiergarten and onto the Grand Prix circuit. Gounon falls in line behind the 99 car, which continues to pull away before they slam on the brakes, clip that apex curb, and then slam on the throttle through the final left hand that leads them back onto the Grand Prix circuit. Now, it's worth saying this BMW is slightly off strategy, so they will need a longer final pit stop. Either way, Harper leads the race as they slam on the brakes into the tight hairpin. They make their way past this gaggle of traffic as Harper hugs the inside line, defending for the Mercedes that goes around the outside of the Toyota and indeed the BMW as well, making it up to first place. As we can see on the exit there, we don't quite see the BMW just yet as they go side by side through the apex of that left-hander and side by side through this right-hander as well. Gounon leaves just enough space for that BMW on the exit as Harper continues to fight this Mercedes driver for first place. Harper brakes late around the outside as they encounter yet more traffic through this little cut-through. They go 3 wide once again, this time around the Cayman, as Gounon brakes as late as he dares and now reclaims first place for the number 3 Mercedes as Harper falls in line behind through this right-hander. It might be just a tune-up race, but these drivers are trained to always fight tooth and nail for every single position. And with 45 minutes remaining, Gounon makes his way through the chicane for his final time this race as he pulls to the right-hand side and into pit lane, slamming on the brakes before hitting that pit lane speed limiter. And with his stint complete, Gounon will hand over to Verstappen, who will take the reins of this Mercedes one final time. Once again, it's a bit uncanny to see how leisurely these pit stops are, but that's one of the quirks and one of the things that we love about the Nürburgring 24 Hours, as Max is strapped in behind the wheel of this number 3 car. And this stop, which is completely devoid of any drama, is completed with Max pulling out of his pit box comfortably in the lead as he trundles down the pit lane and once again re-enters the racetrack. And with 0 minutes remaining on the clock, this is how the race will finish, with Verstappen crossing the line in first place as he waves to his crew. Now, I have to say at this point that if you aren't already aware, the Verstappen crew was penalized and indeed disqualified from this race because of a tire allocation issue. Basically, to make a long, complicated, and somewhat boring story slightly shorter, they used an extra set of tires when practicing their pit stops in a qualifying session. This meant that they went over their allocation of tires for the weekend. Anyways, disqualification or not, it was an incredible performance from this Verstappen racing crew. And they made it very, very clear that they will be true contenders come the 24-hour race. And I just want to say, if you are new to sports car racing and you made it this far, welcome to the channel. We love having you on board. We are a community full of people who love this type of racing. So if you made it this far, I'm sure you loved it too. So make sure to check out the backlog of our videos so that you're up to speed come the 2026 Nürburgring 24 Hours. Anyways, if you guys made it this far, thank you so much for watching and supporting. I truly mean it when I say that your subscriptions, likes, comments, and memberships are the lifeblood that keeps this channel and me going. Thank you guys for all of your support, and I will see you in the next video.